As the dust over the withdrawal of the license of Sky Bank settles, the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, says shareholders have no claim to funds. Africa Development Bank, FDB, is to invest $24 billion to boost agriculture, food and nutrition in Africa over the next 10 years. Plus, federal government releases 22.68 billion naira for settlement of arrears to former Nigerian Airways staff. This is Business Express. It's reaching you from the network service of the NTA. I am Musa Abubakar. Last Friday, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, announced the withdrawal of the operating license of now defunct Sky Bank. On hand was the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, to assure depositors and customers of the banking community that their funds are safe. The Nigerian Stock Exchange swiftly placed a technical session on the shares of Sky Bank, now taken over by a breach bank known as Polaris Bank. Managing Director of the NDIC, Umaru Ibrahim, in this interview with Leah Katumba Batunde, says the corporation is not under any obligation to shareholders and assures that banking activities will continue smoothly through the liquidation period.
Now we have the pleasure of the company of Mr. Umaru Ibrahim. He is the MD of the NDIC, and he is on Business Express today to shed more light into the circumstances surrounding the takeover of the defunct Sky Bank and its subsequent renaming as Polaris Bank. You're welcome to the program, and we would like to take this straight away. The revocation of the license of Sky Bank, the incoming Polaris Bank. What is the meaning of all this to the banking community and the Nigerian public?
Well, thank you very much, Leah, for taking the trouble to conduct this very much needed interview. As you know very well, a bank license is issued, to a group of people in the belief that they will utilize it for the purposes intended, and they will manage the entity, the bank, in the most prudent and responsible manner expected of them. It's a position of trust that they are given so as to run the business in such a way that depositors in particular are protected, and the economy benefits from the activities or the contributions of the bank. Now, in a situation where that is not achieved, obviously the supervisory and regulatory authorities have to take necessary actions. And the bridge bank that has just been established and which metamorphosed to the Polaris Bank is one action, among many other actions that could have been taken in the interest of depositors and in the interest of the entire banking system, so as to instill discipline and accountability and probity.
You made mention of a bridge bank. What exactly is a bridge bank?
Well, a bridge bank is like a transitional arrangement. A bank you float by going by the NDIC Act. The NDIC had the responsibility of taking over and managing, for instance, a distressed bank. Okay, but in the situation, in the case of the defunct Sky Bank, as you recall, the central bank sacked the previous management about 2 years ago, and installed a new team, management and board team in July 2016, with a view to establishing the true financial condition of the bank and taking all necessary measures to ensure that the bank that was really down was lifted. Okay, and for that reason, the central bank injected some funds by way of emergency liquidity support. And that's why even at the initial stage in 2016, even when there was a run on the bank, that situation was taken care of. Now, the NDIC, by virtue of its responsibility, can take over, as I said, manage a failing bank, can inject some liquidity, give some liquidity support depending on the magnitude and the justification for it, and in the worst case scenario, liquidate a bank once the central bank revokes the license. And there are many grounds of revoking a bank license, one of which is the inability of the shareholders to ensure that the bank is properly capitalized. As in the case of Skybank, the shareholders failed to recapitalize the bank. The bank's capital was negative, okay, and it was felt that, look, you cannot continue to, in quotes, spoon feed, this bank unconditionally, sort of. So that was why the license was revoked, and as we speak, the bank is put into liquidation. And NDIC set up this transitional bank, bridge bank, which ordinarily we could manage or get some people to manage, okay, pending when it is sellable. It is put in a position whereby new investors can find it worthy of investing. Now, in this case, we found, AMCON just by the corner, and therefore AMCON readily accepted to invest in the bank, just like we did previously when we bridged other banks.
Recent interventions of the NDIC, like in the case of Keystone Bank, Main Street Bank, the option of Bridge Bank was used to resolve the crisis they found themselves in. Is Bridge Bank option the best for Nigeria, or you have some other options that are available?
Yeah, there are many options. Like I said, Bridge Bank is a well-established framework which is globally acceptable and which is deployed as a failure resolution mechanism or option, depending on the acuteness of the problem. It's just like you're handling a sick person. Depending on the nature of the sickness and the acuteness of the sickness, you deploy different methods to help, the sick. And if you have no control, the person dies, what can you do? So there are many other options. Like I said, both Central Bank and NDIC could have decided not to establish a new bank and just simply liquidate Sky Bank. And what that means is that, the bank will cease to exist. There could be disruptions in banking services. Depositors may, beyond the insured amount, if you have a deposit of more than 500,000, it means you have to wait until, the loans are recovered, assets are sold before you get your money. And that takes a hell lot of time, isn't it? So from our past experience, we like to depart from that kind of extreme measure because it's disruptive and it denies depositors of their hard-earned, funds.
Now, according to Global Financial Watchers, they say there's a looming banking crisis such that happened in 2008 in the offing. Do you think we should have that concern in Nigeria?
Well, I'm not sure if the banking crisis is around the corner, but as far as we are concerned in Nigeria, we are always prepared to deal with any crisis or individual banking challenge as it arises. We are always prepared by always making sure that we actively supervise the banks together with the central bank, and that we help even the banks to manage themselves in a very prudent and responsible manner, in their, not only in their own interest, but also in the interest of the depositors and in the interest of the economy. Preparedness centers around building capacity for our staff, ensuring that our processes and systems are updated, and that we upscale our skills in terms of understanding the dynamics of banking all the time.
So, the depositors of the former Sky Bank, the staff, the bulk majority of them were made to believe that are all safe.
Sure.
Do you have any obligation to the shareholders?
No, we are not responsible for them. They are responsible for their actions, and they are responsible for the loss of the bank. You know, if you invest, in any entity, you have to be aware of what is happening, and you have to do everything possible to ensure that the directors you put there behave responsibly and are able and capable and have what it takes to run the business. Otherwise, you have yourself to blame.
Now, the NDIC, on this last note, has set an ambitious target of 2020. Maybe I would like to call it Vision 2020 for the NDIC. Can you give us an insight into what that is? Could you tell us about it?
Well, like you said, it's ambitious, and it's good to have reasonable ambition. And we still hope and work hard to make sure that we are the best, if not one of the best, deposit insurance in the globe. We have earned that respect and recognition from our peers. In fact, tomorrow we are going to host the for the second time, the Africa Regional Conference on Deposit Insurance, which is a mark of recognition.
And thank you very much, Mr. Umaru Ibrahim, the Managing Director of NDIC, for coming on Business Express. The discussions will continue shortly in the studio.
The federal government has released 22.68 billion naira for former Nigerian Airways staff. The Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, while making the disclosure at a meeting with retirees, said a committee has been set up with the Director, Presidential Initiative on Continuous Audit, Mohammed Ikwa, as head, to verify the names on the existing list before any payment can be made. She added that another 20 billion naira has been approved for immediate release to public universities through the revitalization scheme to ensure smooth running of the tertiary system in the country. In other business development, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, has generated 12.66 billion naira in tax revenue about a month ago, after it commenced substitution of accounts of billionaire taxpayers. Executive Chairman of FIRS, Tunde Fola, disclosed this over the weekend when he received the new Minister of Finance, Hajia Zainab Ahmed, in Abuja. Babatunde Fola says FIRS wrote to all commercial banks in May of 2018 requesting for a list of companies, partnerships and enterprises with a banking turnover of 1 billion naira and above. The activity was aimed at ascertaining those companies that are compliant with tax laws and those that are not. Meanwhile, the Africa Development Institute, ECAD, of the Africa Development Bank is partnering the Nigeria Economic Society to optimize value chains in agriculture sector. FDB is bringing together partners and policymakers to dialogue on how to make Africa food self-sufficient by the year 2025. Working with governments, development partners, and the private sector, the bank is seeking to invest $24 billion to boost agriculture, food, and nutrition in Africa over the next 10 years. As the world is now known as a global village, the ever-increasing need to meet global best practice takes center stage. Value chain addition in the management of limited resources, particularly as Nigeria is diversifying from oil to agriculture, is also in focus. We have in the studio the president of the Nigerian Economic Society, Professor Tamunopriye Jones, and Professor Chidozie Emenuga, Head Program Development, African Development Bank, Abidjan. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewers.
What would you say are the potential of Nigeria's value chain in the agricultural sector? Let's start with Mr. Chidozie.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here with you. Agriculture, as we all know, is all important in our lives. And to the African Development Bank, agriculture is one of our high five areas. Okay. Under the current leadership of Dr. Akiwumi Adesina, we have 5 high five agenda. Number 1 is to power and light up Africa. Okay. 2 is to feed Africa. 3, industrialize Africa. 4, integrate Africa. And 5, to improve the quality of life for the people of Africa. Okay. Now, one of them, as I mentioned, is to feed Africa. And both in Nigeria and in all other African countries, the process is a strong initiative which we are pushing very hard with all resources, both in terms of financing with loans and grants, and also in terms of promoting the knowledge to make sure that within Africa we can feed ourselves.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Yes, thank you. We, the Nigerian Economic Society, has chosen this team that turns out to be high 2 of the high fives of the bank, because we find that the challenges the Nigerian economy and society are facing today can be very easily resolved in optimizing what we do with our agricultural resources. We have about 80 million fertile cultivable land. We're using less than that and at very low productivity. And we don't even enhance the value. We just use the raw, export whatever surplus, and get the pittance. Meanwhile, even industrialization, sustained industrialization, can only be based on agricultural transformations at the different stages, where you add value until you maximize that which you can extract from a given even industry within the agricultural sector. Okay. So we picked up the value chain and to discuss how we can optimize it and even use it as a strategy for a resource-based industrialization which will ease the implementation of our industrial revolution plan.
How does the partnership, or how will the partnership benefit Nigeria?
The partnership, they brought resources, and they're here with us to deliver the conference to very high standard of delivery, high level of discussions, and to get out policy inputs, okay, evidence-based policy inputs that can help government making policies and also open up the eyes of the private sector of opportunities that exist that we have not tapped into within the agricultural sector.
Okay.
Okay.
What are those opportunities?
Actually, we can have this elusive, inclusive growth and shared prosperity. Okay. Because if you take cocoa, for example, we produce cocoa. The chocolate, bars and teas and drinks that we have are produced by people who don't have any seed of cocoa on their soil. Okay. Now, we import them, which erodes our foreign reserve base, get us into foreign debt, and things like that. Meanwhile, we can transform these and produce. We have the competitive edge because we have the raw material. We can produce it cheaply here and transform it cheaply and sell to the people who are selling to us. They take the raw materials, transform it into higher value, and bring it to us, and we buy happily.
Okay, Mr. Chidozie. How does this differ from every other partnership that we had in the past? As you know that mostly we talk about it on paper, but in terms of implementation, it's always something else.
Yeah. First and foremost, we're bringing a new dimension to agriculture in Africa. In the past, in Nigeria and in other countries, in agriculture, we only talk about maximized output. At other times, we talk about reduced cost, and then heavily dependent on the public sector. Now, we're bringing a new dimension to agriculture. First, you see the title of the conference is Optimizing Value Chain. These two keywords, optimize and the other expression, value chain. Now, we're no longer just talking about agriculture as one component of it. We're talking of a holistic approach, so that when we talk about agriculture now, both the professor who is inside his research lab, researching on how to improve yield of agriculture is part of that value chain. The farmer in the field is part of it, the transporter, the storage facility, and even the marketer. So we're bringing a holistic approach to it.
Thank you for your contribution, Professor Tamu Nopriye Jones Ajo Benebo and Professor Chidozie Emenuga. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board has commenced the disbursement of the $200 million Nigerian Content Intervention Fund, which is fully managed by the Bank of Industry. The Executive Secretary, Simbi Wabote, says the current board has received about 100 applications, while 3 companies, he says, have access to the fund. Wabote made this known during the inauguration of the $10 million oil floating facility asset. Oil climbed near the highest level since July after OPEC and its allies signaled less urgency to boost output and stop short of promising extra volumes of crude despite U.S. pressure to temper prices. Futures in London rose as much as 2.7%. OPEC and its partners gave a tepid response to President Trump's demand that rapid action be taken to reduce prices, saying they would boost output only if customers want more cargoes. Brent crude rose to $100 for the first time since 2014 as market braces for the loss of Iranian supplies due to U.S. sanctions, according to experts. Defunct Sky Bank makes gainers charge for the last time. For details of how stocks performed last week, let's join Bosede Abel.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index ended the 21st of September 2018 on a positive note by 0.66% to close 32,540.17 with market capitalization at 11.8 trillion naira. A total turnover of 1.3 billion shares worth 19.5 billion naira were traded in 16,076 deals by investors on the floor of the exchange. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 1.77 billion shares valued at 14.8 billion naira in 9,527 deals. Next was the services industry with 78.2 million shares worth 351.5 million naira in 474 deals. The third place was the consumer goods industry with a turnover of 53.8 million shares worth 2.6 billion naira in 2,370 deals. Trading in the top 3 equities, Guaranty Trust Bank, Access Bank and Zenith Bank PLC accounted for 600.7 million shares worth 13.27 billion naira in 2,656 deals. Also traded were a total of 29,750 units of exchange-traded products (ETPs) valued at 449,662.50 naira executed in 2 deals. A total of 9,710 units of federal government bonds valued at 9.5 million naira were traded in 19 deals. Union Diagnostic, First Aluminium and Fort Oil topped the gainers table, while Standard Alliance, Axamansard and Red Star led the losers charts.
Remember to send us your feedback via email businessexpress@nta.gov.ng. You can also reach us through our Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag BizX showing there on your screen. All previous episodes are available on NTA's YouTube channel. Until we come your way again, I am Musa Abubakar. Enjoy the rest of the week.